One of the things that I struggled with as a game master when I was learning how to prep an adventure was, what do I do next? I'd get the PDF, I'd open the book, and as I'd start reading these things, ideas would flow in my mind. I realized there is another part to the game master process that isn't talked about in any of the manuals. And what I found is that your adventure hinges on two things: your outline and your ability to improv. An adventure outline forms the sequence that can help you run your game when you get to the table. An adventure outline for me needs to do 6 things. It needs to establish the setting, it needs to motivate the players, it needs to set very clear encounters. You need to be able to resolve the adventure, you can throw in a cliffhanger, and lastly, you need to end the adventure well. Establishing the setting gives you that opportunity to get them into the environment that they're about to embark on. Next is figure out a way to motivate your players to go on the adventure. Just because they're saying yes to the quest before they headed into the table doesn't necessarily mean they're absolutely motivated to do so. Whichever carrot is going to work best for your group of players, make sure you dangle that in front of them. Now that you've got them motivated into the adventure, you want to set up the actual encounter. It's like a main story quest chain in an MMORPG or any kind of RPG. You need to give your players the agency to figure out the how. What you need to do is figure out the what. Now, after they've gone through the encounters, whatever the players have done, make sure they feel the consequences of their action. And that's what the resolve phase is all about. Now, while you can't fully predict every kind of outcome in the adventure, the most important thing is figure out the happy ending. You'll have more flexibility to figure out what the players have done and change your ending on the fly, but you need to have one possible outcome nailed down. This is a good place to land the adventure, but what I like to do next is add a little cliffhanger. TV shows do this great. What they'll do is they'll put you through a certain storyline in that one episode, and then right before it ends, they'll spring something completely unexpected or subverting your expectations, making you want to go, oh snap, what happens next? This is what we want to do in this phase, because it's going to entice our players to come back for more. So now what we want to do is land the plane and end the adventure. So we can either do that by escalating the stakes or giving an epilogue to whatever's happened and tying everything in a nice bow. Now, your ending doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be grand, but it does have to be satisfying. So with that said, what I'm going to do now is open up my text editor and bring you through the process of building out an adventure outline based on the Emerge framework that I just showed you. So here we are with the adventure premise that we just talked about in the last video. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out over here. So the premise is simple. Bandits are raiding a nearby village along the roadside. Deal with the bandit leader before the bandit leader sells captives to slavery. So I want to put down our 6 things. So what we want to do first is we want to establish the setting. This is going to happen along the roadside. It can start in a tavern. It can start as players are entering the town. Whatever you want. For me, can't go wrong with the tavern. So we're gonna start off with the tavern. Players walk into. Now that we've kind of established the setting, we can move on to the motivate phase. Think about it as a quest. You know, somebody's gonna have to give the information and motivate the players with the reward, and so on and so forth. So, in this case, pretty straightforward. We can say the town mayor. Now, let's make it more interesting, right? So let's say the tavern owner is alarmed and implores the players to deal with bandit. And then they're going to give the reward of 500 gold pieces, because why not? This is a level 1 adventure. And also free lodging and meals. All right, simple. Okay, let's move on to the encounters. What do we want players to do in this adventure? We want them to track the bandits, find the hideout, rescue captives, deal with the leader. As you can see, the encounters are very straightforward. And again, they're action-oriented, and you're describing the what, because the players are supposed to figure out how they're going to accomplish these things. The point of this first pass of an adventure outline is to get the bones in place, to make sure you have all the right pieces in your adventure, and then you can see which certain things are working, which things are not, and you can change them out. We're going to save the expanding of this outline in another video. And now we're going to talk about the resolution. What is the happy ending that happens in the adventure? Bandit leader is dealt with, captives are all saved, and players return to tavern to collect reward. So now, how can we give our players that one last punch before we end the adventure? Several ways that you can go with this. Let's just do bandit leader has a brother and wants revenge. So lastly, how do we land this plane? Simply put, tavern owner. The tavern owner is a bit of a badass. And so, as you can see, these are the bones of your adventure outline. From this point on, it's up to you how you want to flesh this thing out. In the next video, I'm going to flesh this out a little further. So if you want to see it, go ahead and click the next one. I'll see you there.